fragrance of forgiveness. In Leviticus chapter 16, the Lord instructs Moses to tell Aaron and his sons to gather the Israelites together once a year and for the Day of Atonement. On this day, the high priest was to take the finely ground incense for the altar of incense and a goat from the Israelites as a sin offering, and both were offered as a fragrant offering to the Lord to cleanse the Israelites from their sins. This was done on the Day of Atonement, which is also known as Yom Kippur. Moving forward to Jesus, at his birth, he was given frankincense, which was also included in the altar of incense. And he became a fragrant offering for us. He sacrificed his life on the cross. He became the final sacrifice to cleanse us from our sins. Sins that we have committed to others and sins that we have committed to ourselves. When Jesus was on the cross and he said, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they're doing," that really impacted me when I was recovering from the impact of sexual abuse and I had a really hard time forgiving an offender. When I was in my prayer time, the Lord revealed to me that very message, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they're doing," because when he was a child, he had the same thing done to him. And so he was just acting out of his woundedness and continuing the generational pattern. Although that gave me a revelation, I still wasn't ready to take that step of forgiveness. I was getting closer until I went to church one night and they offered healing prayer for people that had stomach issues and stomach ailments. And I had, for over a year, I had been struggling with nausea and gastritis, and just the aroma of food would make me nauseous. Tasting food would make me nauseous, and I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. So when they prayed for me, I realized that I needed to forgive this offender, and I took that step. After the prayer, I had the biggest belch of my life that came right from here, up and out. And when that happened, I felt such an emotion, like a physical release, and an emotional release, and a spiritual release, like all instantaneous at the same time. Well, I followed my pastor's instructions to go and test the healing. So the next day, I went to a restaurant and ordered a cheese quesadilla and a root beer float, a childhood favorite. And when the food came and I smelled the aroma, instead of getting nauseous, I was actually hungry. I had an appetite. And I devoured it and had no ill effects. And since then, I've been able to eat regularly. Thank God. I realized in hindsight that my unforgiveness was like a stench before the Lord. I held it in my gut. But when I took that step of forgiveness and released it to Him, that was a fragrant offering. So I ask you a question today. Is there anyone that you need to forgive? And include yourself in that. Do you need to forgive someone else or yourself? Jesus wants us to be a fragrant offering to the Lord. And there's freedom in that. So I encourage you in your prayer time or to come before the Lord, release the hurt. Ask Him for a perspective of why this happened to you for the long haul. How can this be a blessing to others in the long haul? You may want to journal or process it through art or gardening or punch a punching bag, whatever it is, to process the hurt, the anger, and to come to the other side so that we can all be fragrant offerings. I'd like to close in prayer out of Ephesians chapter 4, 32 to 5:2. Lord, help us to be kind and compassionate to one another, forgiving one another just as Christ forgave us. Help us to be imitators of you, Lord Jesus, being beloved children and living a life of love, just as Christ loved us and gave himself as a fragrant offering and sacrifice to God. May we do the same. Amen.